Wilhelm Lehmbruck was one of the greatest sculptors of the early 20th century. One of his most famous pieces is Kneeling Woman, which is the embodiment of feminine humility. It currently resides in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. This should not be its final resting place, because during World War II, it was stolen from a Berlin museum, illegally given to Karl Buchholz, and later acquired by the MoMA. Wilhelm Lehmbruck studied the art of sculpture at the School of Applied Arts in Dusseldorf. He continued his education at the Fine Arts Academy in Dusseldorf. Later, in 1910, after his marriage to Anita Kaufmann, he moved to the great city of Paris, France. He met with and became friends with many of the great artists and sculptors of the time, such as Henri Matisse, Constantine Brancusi, Modigliani, Alexander Archipenko, and most importantly, his greatest influence, the expressionist sculptor Auguste Rodin. During this time, he created pieces such as Kneeling Woman in 1911 and Standing Youth in 1913. Wilhelm Lehmbruck served in a military hospital in Berlin during the First World War. Like many artists of the time, the tragedies of war affected him psychologically. He reflected this pain in his art, and powerful pieces such as Fallen Man, which he created in 1960. 2 years later, he was suffering from severe depression, which caused him to flee to the city of Zurich. In 1919, on his return to Berlin, he was elected to the Prussian Academy of Arts. This, however, did nothing to lift his spirits, and sadly he succumbed to his depression on March 25, 1919. Wilhelm Lehmbruck still lived through his extraordinary masterpieces. Kneeling Woman was held in high regard in Berlin until the Nazis came to power in the 1930s, when it was removed from the Kunsthalle Mannheim and labeled as degenerate art by the Reich Ministry for Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. A lot of modern and impressionist art was labeled as such at this time. Hitler and the Nazi Party only approved of art that fit their point of view of the virtues of a good German's life: family, home, and church. Kneeling Woman was put on consignment to Karl Buchholz by the Reich Ministry for Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. Then, in 1939, during the Fisher auction, it was acquired by the Abby Aldrich Rockefeller Fund. Abby Aldrich Rockefeller was a collector, patron, and the co-founder of the Museum of Modern Art, where the piece, Kneeling Woman, now resides. Suspiciously enough, it is not explicitly stated in the MoMA's provenance of the piece that it was acquired from the Fisher art sale. It begs the question, what is the Museum of Modern Art trying to cover up? Since then, the sculpture Kneeling Woman has been a focal point of many exhibitions around the world, including a famous degenerate artwork exhibition at the MoMA. Kneeling Woman was labeled as one of the great masterpieces of modern sculpture by the Museum of Modern Art's founding director, Alfred H. Barr, Jr. But does it belong to them? The answer is no. It belongs in the native land of Wilhelm Lehmbruck, Berlin, Germany. Currently, there are no cases against the MoMA which ask for the return of Kneeling Woman. This does not mean that it should not be returned to its home. Wilhelm Lehmbruck created this piece for the people of Germany to represent the modern heroism he saw in the women of his time. The people of Germany deserve to be able to appreciate the beauty and poise of the Kneeling Woman in their home country where it belongs. The sculpture, Kneeling Woman, created in 1911 by Wilhelm Lehmbruck, should be returned to where it belongs, in the Kunsthalle Mannheim, where it was illegally stolen from during the Nazis' rise to power in the 1930s. It does not belong in the Museum of Modern Art, who acquired the piece through unscrupulous means and who still try to cover it up to this day.